IATA in-flight broadcast procedure, or IFBP. What is this? So the reason why we have an in-flight broadcast procedure for some of the FRRs in Africa specifically is because there is unreliable communication within these FRRs. So if you're talking to an area controller or you're talking to an approach controller, then typically you can't get hold of them properly because of the lack of equipment that they have in these countries. And that's why we need to be able to communicate from pilot to pilot or from aircraft to aircraft. And that is what we call the IATA in-flight broadcast procedure. So it's only applicable to very specific FIRs, which is called the flight information region, and it's where pilots broadcast position and traffic information directly to each other to make sure that there's no collision. Okay. The frequency that we do this on is 126.9 megahertz. So everyone uses this. So typically when you fly there, you listen out on this frequency and make sure that if there's any collision traffic, someone on your altitude or flight level, someone in the opposite direction that's got the same ETA at a specific point, you want to be able to talk to them. So that is a frequency that you constantly monitor. When do you use the in-flight broadcast procedure? And by the way, guys, this is super important for the general radio exam. When you use this, remember about this is 10 minutes before you enter the IFBP FIR. Okay, so before you enter, 10 minutes before you go into an FIR, where there's an in-flight broadcast procedure, you need to be on this frequency and you need to start monitoring what's going on there. Then upon entry, so when you enter, then you do a radio call as well. Then every 20 minutes thereafter, and also before and after you make flight level changes. So if you've climbed or descended, then you must make one before you start to climb, and once you've leveled off, you make another one. Okay, and then also whenever deemed necessary, which is quite obvious because now if you know that there's colliding traffic coming your way, then you need to make a broadcast and you probably need to climb and descend in the opposite direction. How do you make these calls? So like what is the procedure or the terminology that you use when you make this call? There's a very specific procedure, and I think a lot of people get this wrong, but we need to try and keep our radio procedures according to ICAO standards. Okay, so I'm going to give you the ICAO standard one, and this is typically how they're going to ask it in the exam, so make sure you get this right. So number one, it must be English. You can't do this in Chinese or anything. Okay, and basically it starts with all stations, then you give your call sign, then you give the FIR that you are in so that people that's in that FIR immediately get your attention, the position that you're at, the UTC time when you're making this broadcast, the flight level you're at, the direction you're going in, north, east, southwest, northwest, whatever, the airway that you are on, the next point estimate in UTC, so when you're estimating your next point and what that point is called, and then you repeat your call sign info again. So let me give you an example of an in-flight broadcast procedure. Let's imagine we're flying in the Khartoum airspace, which is the Sudanese airspace, one of their FIRs, and this is an example of a call. So you'll go as follows. All stations, this is Alpha Bravo Charlie in the Khartoum FIR. Position Foxy at 1400 UTC. Flight level 350. Northeastbound on Uniform Alpha 300. Estimating Alpha, which is the next position, at 1415 UTC. You end off with, like I said, repeat call sign info. Then you go Alpha Bravo Charlie at flight level 350, northeastbound in the Khartoum FIR. That is typically what an IATA in-flight broadcast procedure looks like. There's a lot more to it, but I'll make a next video to explain.